Now, you may not know this, but $39.8 billion is the projected revenue for all auto repair shops in 2016. My next guest knows all about it. Bill Ketchum is VP of Franchise Development at the TBC Corporation. Bill, welcome to Radio for Small Business.
Thanks, Eugene.
So a lot of people may not necessarily know what TBC Corporation is, but can you maybe give us a hint on what types of brands you guys franchise?
Sure. TBC is we're a three-part company. We have a wholesale business where we wholesale tires to independent retailers. We have a company-owned retail business where we own company-owned brands, including Tire Kingdom in South Florida, and a brand called NTB, and another one called Merchants Tire and Auto. And then we have two dedicated franchise brands. So all of our Tire Kingdom stores are company-operated. We have two dedicated franchise brands as well, and those are Midas Auto Care and Big O Tire.
Okay. Now, a little bit about your background. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the business that you're in?
Sure. I've been in franchising for most of my career. My initial job in franchising was back in the mid-90s. I worked for Big O Tires, which at that time was an independently owned business, was later acquired by TBC. Big O is, at the moment, is a 400-store chain, mostly on the West Coast. And I went from working at Big O, I left and ended up coming back to TBC at a later time. But throughout my career, I've worked in a lot of different aspects of franchising. I've worked as a lender to franchisees for several years with a bank in California. And I actually was a franchisee myself for several years.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How was that experience being a franchisee?
It was really eye-opening after working for a franchisor to actually be a franchisee. Give me an appreciation for how hard people work when they're self-employed. It was rewarding. It was a furniture business and specializing in baby and children's furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I did it together, and we did a startup unit and built it up and then sold it.
Yes.
It was a real good experience to just understand, as I said, what it takes to be successful as a franchisee.
So that probably is what makes you good in working with TBC Corporation, because you can really, from a personal perspective, know what it feels like to be a franchisee and to know about having to invest dollars into starting your own business. One of my questions is, what types of things are franchisees typically looking for when they're coming and saying, I'd like to take a look at your opportunity?
So, people are interested in franchising for a lot of different reasons. Some of the most common ones that you run into are, number one, that they want to make, a good living. And, they see that as a successful small business owner, you can do real well for yourself. People also see it as a lifestyle choice that, if you work hard at a business and get it up and running, it can be a good lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get it built and, it's running and you don't have to go to the office every day necessarily. The freedom of working for yourself and those kind of intangible benefits,
And I think it's important for us to say that TBC Corporation is one of America's original franchises, right? I mean, you guys have been around since, the 50s?
Yeah, 1956 with Midas and also 1956 with Big O, coincidentally. I believe 1962 with Big O, but a long time. Tell
me about this. When, I don't know what you call them before they're technically franchisees, prospects, or when prospective individuals or prospective franchisees come to you, what are some of the steps that they need to take in order to have a more fruitful conversation with you guys the first time around?
Sure. Number one would be to understand their financial situation, to take the time to put together your personal balance sheet and really understand how much money you're in a position to invest, how much income you may need to get to draw out of a business. And, that'll kind of help you to understand, number one, whether you can look at any franchise opportunity, and number two, what the opportunity may look like, because there are a lot of different, levels of investment out there for franchise brands, and somebody that may not be qualified for our opportunity may be qualified to do something different.
That makes sense. So definitely someone should know, hey, here's what type of cash I have to lay out, or here's what kind of capital I can raise. Does Midas and Big O, do they typically have standard, capital requirements for liquidity and things like that?
Yes. Yeah, and most franchisors understand that pretty well. So, for us, with our Midas brand is a slightly lower investment because Big O is a tire retailer, and there's typically about $100,000 in tire inventory. So for Midas, we look for people that have a minimum of about $100,000 in cash to invest and can borrow about $200,000 because the total investment's about $300 to get into a new location.
Okay.
And Big O is, you typically would need about $150,000, and then, the typical investment would be $400 to $500 as a range.
Gotcha. So let's say, prospective franchisee, they come on board. Maybe what are some success stories that you have right there in your area? What are some success stories you may be able to tell us about that people would like to hear?
Sure. Our success stories are pretty varied. I'll tell you, there's one guy that I know of who has been a franchisee of ours in California for now about 20 years. He started when he got out of the military working in the shop for another franchisee, changing tires in the back. And he eventually worked up. He was a store manager. And then a lot of times our franchisees like to give a good store manager the chance to buy into their business. So, this guy bootstrapped his way into owning one store, and then over time was able to become one of our larger franchisees and now has 10 stores.
Wow. So literally picked himself up by his bootstraps and said, I'm going to go, literally started from the bottom. And like you said, now one of the biggest. Wow.
Yep. So that's a good story. There's also a guy that I'm thinking of as a different background who was an executive with IBM and wanted to make a change in his life and wanted to work with his son. And he ended up opening a store. So he's pretty late in his career professional, with IBM and went into a completely different type of business and was successful. And he now has 2 stores. He lives in Denver. So
it's pretty interesting point you made there. I didn't realize that, sometimes even more seasoned individuals, want to go into a different career.
Oh, yeah, a lot of times.
Do you typically see it with someone who's got more I know anyone can be a franchisee, but who seems to have it the most in your opinion or want it the most? Who's the hungriest when they come?
That's hard to say. Certainly I've seen both kinds of people be successful. People that are, actually there's several different kinds of people that have been successful in our business. People that, have worked in our type of business in the past, as I mentioned, the guy in California. People who are seasoned business people. But, I'll give you another example of someone who's successful. We have a guy that was a senior in college, and he's in Denver when he bought his first Midas location before he'd actually graduated from college, because he knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur. He knew he wanted to work for himself. And he's also a very successful guy now. He's got 30 plus stores.
Wow.
So, and, he's a real young guy and just really a hard worker. So I don't know that there's a common background. I mean, there's certainly a common drive to work hard and to, take care of customers and employees. Those are the kinds of people that are successful with us.
Gotcha. So just in case you're just tuning in, we're talking to Bill Ketchum, VP of Franchise Development at TBC Corporation. Now, how important is their franchising opportunity to you? Well, does your car use tires? Okay. Midas and Big O Tires are 2 of their franchise brands. And Bill's been on talking to us about franchising, becoming a business owner, entrepreneurship. Bill, why don't you, since we're about to wrap up, why don't you give listeners a way that they can get in contact with you just in case they want more information about franchising with TBC Corporation?
Sure. You can visit our website. We have 2 different websites for both of our franchise brands, MidasFranchise.com and BigOFranchise.com. You can also give us a call. We're at 800-365-0007.
800-365-0007?
Correct.
Awesome. Bill Ketchum, VP of Franchise Development at TBC Corporation. I want to say thank you one more time for your time.
Sure. Thank you.